Brenden Rice. Oh, yes. And, you think you hear that last name and you think of the days of San Francisco and Joe Montana, not to be confused with Joe Montana if you're Rob, because he likes to confuse the two. But, yeah, this is his son. This is his son, guys. Brenden Rice, the son of the great Jerry Rice, the greatest.
Montana T on Rice?
No.
What happened here?
What? Montana T on Rice? What are you talking about?
Jerry Reese? What?
What?
Yeah.
No, not Jerry. We don't talk about Jerry Reese on the show.
Say
6'2", 208 pounds, 28 years old. Played the last 2 years at USC. Played the 2 years before that over at Colorado. Obviously, pre the Dion days and the bad days of Colorado. Last year, 12 games, 45 receptions, 791 yards, 12 touchdowns. That's a pretty decent TD total there. 22, he was 39 receptions, 611 yards and 4 touchdowns. So not as quite the touchdown machine there. Keep in mind, though, that this guy basically became the number 1 receiver at USC this year because they lost a certain Jordan Addison who lit it up down in Minnesota there, don't you know? And all of a sudden,
there's a wicked pisser.
All of a sudden, there he is, the number 1 receiver there, with Caleb Williams, who, let's be very frank, is not an easy quarterback to work with if you're a receiver, because this guy doesn't sit in one spot. He moves around like crazy. It's like he's got ants in his pants. He's in the quarterback position there. The guy can't sit still. And, when you're a receiver, that matters. You have to see where he's at. You have to go, okay, is it coming from the left? Is it coming from the right? Do I have to come back to this guy? Same we talked about a minute ago, Blake Washington had that ability. You need that ability if you're going to play with a guy like Caleb Williams, because you never know where he's going to be at. Yeah. Pros on Brenden. Good size, explosive, good at playing off script, as we said. Good blocker as well. And I have a thing for guys who block at the receiver position, because it tells me they're a team player. It tells me they're a hard worker, and tells me they care about the craft overall, not just catching the ball, the craft of being a wide receiver.
It's a big difference.
Exactly. Cons: lacks quick stops, especially in curls. You'll see it where it's almost like he takes like 5 steps to turn around when he's got to turn around in a quick one there. Not great at running catch routes as well. So if you know a quick 5-yard and then he's got to pop off and go, again, he's got issues with those quick moves like that. He's also been a little inconsistent on his performances. He's that guy who will have like almost disappear for a couple games and then be the MVP of the next game after that. You kind of like to see it a little more steady, especially in college, because you got to remember, everything you see good in college goes down a level when you go in the pros. Whenever you see bad in college, it's, again, going to go down a level in the pros there. But this is a guy that a lot of guys think could be like a second receiver, like a perfect Batman kind of, I've said perfect Robin kind of guy in a lot of offenses there. And I'm not so sure if I have him that high necessarily, but I do think this is a legitimate receiver in this league. That's going to be a guy who probably be, to me, I think like a 500-600 yard kind of guy where he's going to max out in this league at that point there. What do you guys think?
That also depends who he's sitting next to. Like, if
of course, obviously,
yeah. Like,
also who's throwing the ball is part of that too.
Yeah, you turn around and say, he goes to KC. You think he's going to be a 500-600 yard receiver? Like,
actually, I do, because I think they have big.
They do spread the ball around. They do give it to Cousins.
Hollywood Brown's gonna have his best season ever coming up. Telling you.
Yeah, possibly will. Yeah.
Fantasy owners.
It's really funny.
Ready to draft him.
Yeah. But if he goes to another team, we'll say Buffalo.
Mm-hmm. That's a good spot for him, actually. He'd be a perfect potential replacement for Gabe Davis.
Yeah, he has 750 yards, 800 yards. Easy.
Yeah. Well, I still don't know if I go that high, but they don't need a guy that high because they have a good tight end now for the first time in, Josh Allen's career.
Put him on, he was Caleb Williams' safety blanket. So, if the Bears are sitting there in the 4th or even 5th round and he's still on the board, you want your #1 overall future Hall of Fame, possibly quarterback, to feel as comfortable and stay as long as he possibly can and sell you as many damn seats as he possibly can. So I would take a flyer if I were the Bears in the 4th or 5th round, and you'd probably still get 500 or 600 yards out of him too, since Mooney's gone.
Yeah, you think he's going to last that long? I'm thinking like third. I think you think third round he's going to go. Like, towards the end of the third is where I think he's going to end up going.
I mean, personally, I think what's going to end up happening with these wide receivers is because there's so many of them, a lot of the teams that we think are going to grab wide receivers in either the tail end of the first or the early second are probably going to wait till the end of the second or early third to start grabbing guys that we think would be going in the second round. So you might get like the Buffalo Bills getting someone like, Ladd McConkey in like the 3rd round. And you're going to be like, for crying out loud. You know what I mean? Like, or Xavier Worthy going in the mid-second to something like the Chiefs, and people are like, great. So they didn't have to use it first, but they trade up in the second, and now they got 2 Tyreek Hills essentially.
See, I think what's going to end up happening is once the first person kind of takes that run at a receiver, there's going to be a panic. I feel like there's a wide receiver panic every year, and it all takes that first team.
Also, there's draft positional tails that go on every year. You see someone that like needs a quarterback. It's just like if you play fantasy football,
Yep. Oh yeah.
You got it. Like the first guy that goes, I got a quarterback. Everyone goes, crap. Yeah. And they just don't take the best player at the position.
Yeah.
Nope.
I mean, every year though, it seems like wide receivers that spot where all of a sudden like 10 to 15 picks in a row go wide receiver because it just makes a run of them real quick. Everybody's like, oh my God, I'm not going to get one. Like, and they just freak out.
Yeah. Well, and that's the guy you want.
That's the thing with this draft is there's like 6 to 8 depending on who you kind of what you were saying earlier with the quarterbacks, depending on who you like. There is 6 to possibly 8, but then the tackles and the wide receivers are so deep in this draft where that's where it starts to become like if you're a GM and you're like, all right, I can have Malik Neighbors or Olu Fashanu. It's like
Neighbors in a heartbeat.
Depending on who you are, if you're the Giants, you Neighbors and Wandell.
I'm actually not a Fashanu fan, but we'll get into that one on Thursday, guys. The spoiler alert on that one. I think he's overrated personally. So,
well, hello, Mr. Fancy Spoily.
I said it. Listen, I said it. Just saying, we were right on CJ Stroud. I'm still holding that one too. We actually had a pretty good record last year. I went back and looked at some of our stuff we said. And we were pretty good on a lot of the stuff too. So I was a little feather in our cap there at that point there.
I'm the one that said the Panthers will go 10-7 and win the South.
I said the same thing. I really did.
Did you?
I did. So I'll give you that one. I was definitely wrong on that. I thought CJ Stroud would be better than Bryce Young. I didn't think that Bryce Young would be as bad as he was. I didn't think that. I thought he'd be more of a game manager kind of guy. The defense would kind of take over, and because it's such a crappy division, they'd kind of squeak it out. That's what I thought. But again, this is why we rest our laurels on our rights, because there's plenty of wrongs. That's for sure.
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.